Hey everybody, this is Lance Myxter, the board game Undead Viking, and I am on with Legends of Tabletop with John and Vincent, and I'm supposed to say something cool right now. Well, as of a few days ago, I turned 45 years old, so I've successfully completed 45 trips around the sun, and here's to 45 more. But anyway, hey guys.
Hey, what's going on? Hey, everybody out there. Thanks for tuning in to episode 82 of the Legends of
Oh.
Tabletop podcast. We've got Lance with us tonight. We're happy to have him on, so thanks for coming on, sir.
No, I am supremely happy to be here. This took a little while for us to finagle out the time and the day and everything like that, but I'm glad we were able to finally pull it off. And it's on the 13th though. I'm kind of a triskaidekaphobic, so
Uh-oh.
which hopefully this goes well. Which then of course I found out that triskaidekaphobia isn't a real thing. It's like
Really?
I've always heard that like triskaidekaphobia is the fear of like the number 13, but then it turned out that wasn't a real thing. It wasn't like that isn't like the real word or whatever like that. So there really isn't a true triskaidekaphobic out there. But I don't know.
There you go.
Hmm.
See, you tune in for games, and then you come in and you learn something. So there you go.
Well,
Take
I'm
that to heart.
I
Unlearn something.
yeah. If anybody knows who I am, it's unfortunately I do go down a few rabbit holes and dude, I just realized I'm digging Vincent. I'm digging the Christmas lights in the background.
Thank you.
That's very very Christmassy.
I've always
Well
been
done.
fond of Christmas lights since I was a kid. So
I
just
mean,
added personal.
yeah, I think, yeah. I mean, isn't it? I mean, Christmas is awesome. I mean, it really is. It's
Mhm.
all the whole stage of it. There was like this glut of Christmas not being that much fun for me, but man, once I had kids, then yeah, all over again. Having kids and Christmas,
Mhm.
man, that's the best ever. But anyway, we should probably talk about games or something, right?
So you jumped over our something cool segment. So you just turned 45. So that's pretty cool. You have anything exciting that's been going on? Any cool things that are happening?
Well, probably the coolest thing, like I always like try to, December is like that really weird like month of like reflection because you're wrapping up a year and you're looking back and like in 2016, obviously, a lot of people have said that it kind of stunk, and yeah, there's a lot of things that like have not been great about 2016, but I'm in a really weird area of flux because there's a lot of things about the year 2016. I don't want to get political or anything like that in any way, but I mean, there's stuff that everybody I'm from Minnesota, and like our native son, like Prince, he died. That stinks. A great musician, David Bowie, passed away. Things like that. Like we have these great these artists that are no longer with us, and there's these things about 2016 that just kind of stink. And then but 2016 was like an incredibly momentous and amazing year for me personally because after working in a corporate world for over a decade and a half, I actually was able to get rid of the tie and the button-up shirt and the khakis, and I'm now working within the board game industry. I work for Tasty Minstrel Games. I'm part of their marketing and media and game development, and man, I mean, it's just like I didn't know how much I could like enjoy work until I actually had a job that I could actually enjoy. So it's been really fantastic. I mean, it's just this has been a really really great year for so many reasons for me, and so it's weird. It's like you look back at 2016 and or the year in December, and like you have all these like moments, and it's just like overall I'm going to say 2016 was really awesome, but I know like a lot of people are all like doom and glooming it, and so I feel like I have to keep my mouth shut and like, oh yeah, totally 2016 stinks. And I'm over the thing like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's always a mixed bag, right? I mean, you have to have those negative things to. I mean, if you didn't have bad things, you wouldn't know what the good things were. So, I mean, it's sort of a Zen thing. So it all kind of
There you go.
balances out.
I like that. That was a South Park episode. That was Butters who was all sad and he was crying, and then he said, if I didn't feel like crap today, I wouldn't know how great it would be tomorrow. So it was like, yeah, that's true, man. You have to have the lows and the highs, right? Nobody
Yep.
wants to be right straight across.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't. It'd just be the same all the time.
Yeah, and the weird thing is, I mean, and to tie it actually into games, I mean, like we're gonna actually discuss games and talk about games. I mean, 2016 has been for me anyway, has been a really weird up and down year for games too. I mean, obviously the board game industry is like, it's getting to this weird situation in my mind where, we're growing at this exponential rate, but we're still small, right? So like we have, so it's this kind of this clash of like old and new, where we have people. I mean, I can't speak for you guys, but I mean, I've been into board gaming for good 10 plus years, and I remember 10 plus years ago when board gaming really wasn't, it wasn't huge. And the thing is that anytime we say, oh, it wasn't huge like it is now, but even when we say like it is now, board gaming is still really small. I mean, compared to other media, other things that people do for fun, things like that, we're still really tiny. But comparatively, it's so much bigger now than it was. I've often said that, like, 10 years ago, you could tell yourself, I could own like the 75 really good board games. And those are the only 75 board games you needed to own. But now it's like there's so many out there, and everything's just being published. I mean, I can remember when Agricola was going to come out, and there was like this weird buzz for it. It was just like, oh my gosh, there's just like this farming game, and I mean, it was just like, and everybody was just, there was like, for 6 months, everybody was just trembling with the idea, and we got to make sure you order early because then you'll get the meeples that are shaped like animals, and everyone was like really excited about it. And now, I mean, not that Agricola's a bad game by any means, but I mean, now it would just be like a little blip, just, well, here's another game about farming, and so it's been really weird to see us get bigger, and then both the good and the bad things that have come out of that. So I mean, 2016 really showed me that, man, finding the good games in the morass of the things that are average has been really difficult this year for me. Usually it's easy for me to pinpoint, like, these are my top 5 games I played this year, and it's like it's really tough to find those right now.
Is it a little bit of fatigue? Doing so many reviews, playing so many games, and doing all that kind of stuff for something to sort of stand out then and be like, hey, this makes my top 10 for this year, or I really enjoyed, whatever.
The sad thing is that, like, I used to do a top 10 video or a top 20 video, and I haven't done one in a few years now. I mean, mostly I think, partially due to fatigue, and partially due to the fact that, like I said, it is really, really tough for games to pop up and really, show themselves to me in a weird way. I just, it's like it's not that the games are bad. It's just when I realize that, like, I've played, well over 1,000 games now, and it's just like, it's really tough for a game to really show me something new or different. Or, yeah, I got a cat that does the same thing.
He's an asshole.
I have a weekly show that we do a Google Hangout for, and, like, my cat doesn't pay me any attention to me until I'm sitting in front of the computer, and then she needs the attention. But no, it's one of those things where it's. I would love, in a weird way, well, 2 things. I would both love and hate coming into the hobby right now. One, I would love it because of the sheer volume on the options that you'd have. I mean, just how many, like, games look and are really fun to play, look awesome and are really fun to play. But at the same time, I would be really intimidated getting into the hobby right now. I mean, just like, how would you even know where to begin? I mean, I think everybody at some point or another, like, when they first got into the hobby, the first thing they did, and this is, I mean, maybe not recently, but the first thing you did was all of a sudden you were like, you were buying like 5-6 games a month, and you were just like, oh wow, I mean, and I've heard so many great things about Power Grid, I need to pick that up, or I've heard, there's this awesome game, called Kingsburg, and somebody said it was really amazing, and it's just like, and so you have like this backlog of awesomeness that you can track down and you can get on your shelf, and so you can kind of, like, catch up, so to speak, and then you're on pace, and so then when the new stuff comes out, you can kind of consume it. But now, I mean, there's just too many. There's just no way. And also, I always used to say, like, you could, as a reviewer, you could feasibly play the 50 to 100 games that are like the big new releases in the course of a year. Now there's just no way. You'd have to. And with all respect, you'd have to be. You have to like really be Tom. Tom Vessel, and just have that's your job. As a professional reviewer. That's so. When you get up in the morning and you go sit down at the table, and you're not only having breakfast, but you're also reading the rules to like the 5 games you're going to play that day, so you can make those reviews. It's so. Otherwise, man, that cat.
It would be fine if he just sat here, but he sits here for a little while, and then he just starts to bite me because he's a dickhead. That's why he gets the heave-ho.
Nice. No, so it's like I said, I love the hobby. It's my passion. It's my job now. It's like I am very blessed to have the opportunities that I have right now. But it's such a we're changing so much right now as an industry that it's both scary but also really exciting too. So I guess and those things kind of go hand in hand with a lot of things, though, I think.
Sure. So talking about doing reviews and all these different things, how long have you been doing it, and what was sort of the thought behind it? Like, what was like, hey, I'm gonna make a YouTube channel. Like, how did that whole thing come about?
Well, you want the short or the long story? Because the big thing that happened for me was, after kind of, I was a gamer. I was born in 1971. I got introduced to Dungeons and Dragons by my older brother when I was like 7 or 8 years old, and I really started down the path of tabletop gaming, which wasn't even called tabletop gaming back then. That wasn't even nobody would even consider calling it that. But that was playing games for me, and that was before. You might play an Atari or somebody's got a ColecoVision or something like that, but nobody played computer games or. Played if you wanted to play a video game, you rode bike to the mall, and you put quarters in games, and you played at the arcade. So so what happened was I really got into games. I played a lot of role playing games when I was younger, and I kind of branched into some the Steve Jackson stuff, like the if you know which ones I'm talking about, the ones that came in basically that little black flip box, like the Car Wars or Battlesuit or Ogre, which technically were board games, but they weren't board games that we they weren't Monopoly or Payday or Careers or Kerplunk or any of those things that were in everybody's game cabinet that their parents had. And and then we kind of took that and we branched into things like Mech Warrior and BattleTech, and we played GURPS, just all kinds of role playing games, and then role playing games, board games that had kind of a role playing element to them. At some point, somebody picked up a copy of Talisman. I don't remember when. My buddy David found a copy and picked it up, and we started playing that, and that was the first real board game we played a lot of, because it was fantasy based. It felt kind of like playing D&D, but you were just playing this game Talisman. We played a lot of that. But as with everything, once you get out of high school and you get into college, you kind of the group busts up and you don't really see each other that much. And so I kind of I didn't really play a lot of games. I played D&D every once in a while. I remember trying to get a college group together, but it just didn't really work really well. But once we all kind of got out of college, we started finding jobs, and we kind of achieved normalcy. The guys that stayed in our hometown, and including myself, we kind of found each other again, and we started playing a lot of D&D again, and we kind of played a bunch of that. But as things happen, you get older, people get wives, people get kids, and the big thing for me, what happened was that I met my future wife, and after we'd been dating for a short period of time, we were going to be parents, and so then I found that my time was being decreased a lot, and I couldn't set aside an 8-hour day to play Dungeons and Dragons anymore. It was just it just wasn't flying when you got a 3-month-old kid and and a fiance. So I was I got to find something for us to get together. We can still get together and do something, but we can in a shorter period of time. And so I did some searching, and I stumbled upon like the Board Game Geek website because I was like, I got to find a game like Talisman. I was like, that's what I got to find. But Talisman was like long out of print at that time. It was one of those. It was that game that Fantasy Flight hadn't brought it back. Like so nobody knew. Well, technically there was that company called Black Box Entertainment or whatever. I think was the company that brought it back, and they ended up selling the rights to FFG if I remember correctly. But so I was like digging for games, and I found this game called Arkham Horror, and I was a big Call of Cthulhu fan back when I was younger. And I was like, that game sounds fun. I was like, oh, we got to save the world against Cthulhu. And I said, that sounds like it'd be a fun game. And so I found a place. Actually, I found a guy on eBay selling it that was in my hometown.
Oh,
so
nice.
I just drove over to his house, and I handed him $30, and he handed me a copy of Arkham Horror. And so I brought it home, and I cracked it open, and I started reading the rules, and I was like, I couldn't really understand what I was reading, but I was
That's
like,
tense.
we can figure this out. We can figure this out. So I invited my buddies over, and we played this game of Arkham Horror, and we lost horribly. Yog Sothoth ate us all or something, but we had a lot of fun, and we had a blast, and I was like, this is really, really good. And so then I went back to the Board Game Geek website, and I actually finally registered and I put my name on there, and I did some research on Arkham Horror, and then I found like a rules summary for it, and I was like, wow, we played this all wrong. I was just like, so I printed off a bunch of these rule sheets, these rules reminders, and so I invited everybody over, and we played it, and we had a blast with it. And then we didn't win either. I think we played it like 6 or 7 times where we finally won a game. It was like, and I knew now looking back, I realized that we really liked the game, obviously, because we kept coming back for more punishment.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point, like I just, it's like when you scratch the first itch on BGG, when you start digging in, and once again, this is back when BGG was a different website back then. And I don't mean it was better or worse or anything like that. It was just different. And there were like the 250 odd people that were very, very prevalent and very vocal on the message boards. And you kind of got to know everybody in a weird way. I mean, you'd recognize their avatars, you recognized who they were, you'd have ongoing conversations about games and everything with these people. And there was a sense of unity, and eventually what happened was I just it was like I wanted to do more with board games, but I couldn't play them all the time. So I was like, well, you know what, I'm going to just start writing reviews, and I just started writing reviews of the board games I played, and I started getting some really positive feedback from people. And that was back when Tom and Scott Nicholson were like the two guys. There was a third guy, and I can't remember his name to save my life. I keep telling myself I got to look that guy up. But there was a third guy that was doing videos at the time too. And there were other people that maybe did 1 or 2 here and there. But there were 3 people that were doing them. And that third guy is long since gone. I don't know what happened to him. But the Tom and Scott Nicholson were the ones, and I remember I reached out to Scott Nicholson because somebody said, "Hey, you should do video reviews," and I was like, so I reached out to Scott Nicholson. And I said, how do you go about choosing the game to do, and how do you do this, and what kind of equipment do you use? And he and I exchanged a few emails, and then and to this day I still consider him a pretty good friend. And he suggested me what to do, and then I started stumbling my way through videos. And that was back when, like, on YouTube, like, you had to have, like, you were limited to like a 5-minute video, I think, if I remember correctly, or maybe it was 10 minutes. And one of the things that Scott Nicholson had going for him was because if you were an educator, and he was a professor, and he still is, you could have unlimited length videos on YouTube. They'd allow an educator, because like it was, you could use them for teaching and whatever.
Sure.
But like if you were just some schmub, you got like 5 minutes, and you could do videos that were 5 or 10 minutes long. And so I remember like feeling that it was just, I couldn't talk, as you can tell by this story. I have trouble being succinct, and so I I actually posted the majority of my first videos back in the day on Vimeo. Which, like, if you were on Vimeo and you paid them $5 a month, they let you have your videos be as long as you wanted them to be, and you had some other perks as well. So I paid them that money, and I posted my first, and then you can find them; they're still on there. And then I that's what I did. And eventually, what happened with YouTube, I think if I remember correctly, like if you had a certain number of subscribers or if you had a certain number of views, then you got upgraded automatically. And so then I started transferring those videos over. But I remember I basically stumbled my way through them. And I'll say this, and I've said this in every single time anybody's ever asked me this question. I said that, and I believe this, is that if I hadn't started doing the videos that I did when I did, because there basically was only like 3 or 4 people that were doing it, I would not have the following that I got, and I would not have the following that I have, just because now, because I personally don't feel that I bring anything very specific to what I do. I don't have a flashy intro. I don't have 4 cameras and 3 different angles, and I use Sony Vegas, but I use it for about maybe 1/10 of its potential. I don't have a $2,000 camera. I don't have, my production quality and everything is acceptable at best. And I guess the only good thing, the one thing I had back in the day was that I wasn't scared to have a 30-minute video where I remember I got constant comments like, your videos are too long. And I just said, well, I'm going to do these the way I'm going to do them. And I can't talk for 5 minutes. It drives me crazy not to be able to say everything I want to say. So
no way.
And luckily enough, I got a following, and the people that enjoyed what I had to say or enjoyed what I did, they appreciated it and let me know, and I've just built it up from then. And luckily enough for me, I got to the point where I became friends with the people at Taste Minstrel Games, and eventually at one point they offered me a job, and so here I am.
All right, that's cool.
Yeah. I'll say this, and I try not to be very prideful. I guess it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, I'll to anybody who'll listen, I'll say fully well, my wife will agree with me, is that I've kind of half-assed my way through life in a lot of ways, and I've kind of it's just like, and it's just like, I have to be passionate about something for it to like really grab me, and like I'm willing to put in that extra effort. I've had a lot of jobs where I'm just like, I'll do what I needed to do, and I'll get it done, and I'll even do a good job at it. But I just don't care. But I'm very proud of the fact that whatever happens, I can point to my entire my YouTube channel and all those videos I've done. I can point to that and say, that's all me. I didn't join up with anybody to do it. I flat out said, I'm going to just do this. And I created it from scratch. And so I'm pretty proud of it. And I try not to buy into my own hype a little bit. Luckily, my wife is more than willing to. Like, if I go to a convention, like, I'll come back and I'll, it's like, and like I talk to about, a bunch of strangers come up and say hi to me and talk to me about games. I come home with a little bit of, and not as much anymore, but I remember one time I went to Gen Con and, like, definitely came back with a little bit of a big head on me, and then my wife was kind enough to put me back in my place. So
go take out the trash.
Yeah, basically.
The dog poop,
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Big, why don't you go ahead and get that laundry folded and put that away for me already? So, but
we have a similar thing. It's funny that you say that, because I actually wrote a blog post on my personal blog about a similar thing. Just kind of like getting through and just kind of getting by. Like, work is work. Like, it's not whatever. And Vince and I got divorced, and the blog, sort of my personal blog, came out of that, and then this sort of an extension of that. And Vince pushed me to do it. And it's the same thing. Like, we're one of, I don't know, a million podcasts. It's not, anything that anybody's doing that's spectacularly different, but we do it the best we can. We go out and we do a good job, and we're out here every week doing the thing and doing the research and all the stuff. So yeah, I mean,
Well,
you take pride in it, but you're not like, I'm the best that there ever was, because there's people that have been doing it a lot longer than we have.
the one thing that I've had a lot of people say or whatever is like they've asked me like, well, how do you get started, or what's the trick? And I was like, well, there really isn't a trick. I said that if anything, I can just say is you'll be consistent. So like if somebody who tracks you down and listens to your podcast or watches your video review and says, oh, I really liked the way they handled that, or I really liked the way that they approached that particular that video or that opinion, I'd really like to see what else they have to say. Well, if you're making it tough for them to track down and find something else that they've had to say or whatever, then you're going to lose that person, because there's so much information and there's so much out there for people to consume that if you get that one person to have that moment where they're thinking about clicking on the subscribe button, you kind of have to you get them at that moment, and unfortunately it's like, I mean, I can totally in my opinion, well, how many times have I said, oh, I got to remember that? I never do. If I don't write it down, or if I don't stick it on my monitor, I'm never going to remember. But and the other thing I said is that ultimately, I mean, it's just like, what I've always said is that it's, if you go trying to trick people into watching your content, it just doesn't work. If you try to be something you're not, it doesn't work. If you you have to, it's not the greatest comparison in the world, but I'm a consumer of all things weird and whatever. But I mean, I'm a big fan. And not so much that I watched all the time, but I'm a big fan of the cult of that is professional wrestling, and I enjoy the pageantry. Yes, I enjoy the pageantry of it a great deal. Thank you for the word. But I remember, and I've read a lot of books about it, and just because of its beginnings and how it got started, and one of the things I remember reading about, there's a wrestler, Diamond Dallas Page, and he's very unique in that he didn't really get started professional wrestling until he was almost into his 40s. I mean, but he was always on the fringe. He was always on the fringe. He was always trying to. He was friends with wrestlers. He was always trying to get in with them. He was always trying to be a gimmick or something like that. He was trying to do stuff, and there was this thing where he was. And he's always been kind of larger than life, sequins and rhinestones and driving a pink Cadillac and just being a crazy guy, and they said, and there was Mick Foley in his book, he said something, and Diamond Dallas Page picked him up from the airport in this big pink Cadillac, and he's wearing this giant 10-gallon hat, and he's just larger than life, and he picked him and Dusty Rhodes or Harley Race or something up at the airport, and they drove him to their match, and he dropped him off, and he drove away. And Mick Foley said, that guy's he's like what a wannabe that guy is or whatever. And Dusty Rhodes or Harley Racer or something said, he's like, that guy's going to be a great professional wrestler. And he's like, well, he's like, why? He's like, because he lives his act. I mean, that's him. He's like, yes, he's completely over the top, but it isn't an act. It was just, that's what he was. And so if you present your channel or you present your podcast or you present your reviews and you are genuine, I mean, people can tell. I mean, people are smart. They can see when people are. I mean, I can even tell when I'm watching a video reviewer, because you say, if you watch somebody that's done 10 reviews and all of a sudden they do an 11th one that's just weird and different, people are going to recognize that. People are going to say, well, it's what are you doing? That isn't you. And it's just and it's just so, yeah, I always say, just be yourself. And because at the very least, if you completely and totally fall on your face, but at least you can say, well, at least I did it my own way. At least I did it. I was true to myself. I was true. Yeah, I've kind of had that attitude about everything in my life. Just fall, succeed or fail in your own, on your own merit, and then just pick yourself up, learn what you've learned from it, and try again.
Word. So, yeah.
Exactly.
And speaking of wrestling, you have your own wrestling podcast, don't you?
Yeah, we just started that. Me and Michael Fox and his lovely wife Steph. Yeah, we're actually, I think we're recording our next episode here in a couple of days. Michael Fox and I've only met his wife once, but I mean, Michael Fox is a genuinely wonderful human being, and he is a cornucopia of wrestling knowledge. He and I ended up at Origins this last year. We were just it was one of those situations where he and I just ended up in like the same. Have you guys ever been to Origins?
No, I haven't, unfortunately.
All right, I would, in my opinion, and you heard it here first. Origins is going to become like the cool Gen Con. I mean, because it's not going to be. It's in a wonderful area. It has the best food of all time because you leave. There's this place called the North Market that's a block away from the convention center, and it's basically this a warehouse that they've converted into a place where there's like probably 14 different little restaurants that you just walk up and you just take your food and you take your food upstairs and you eat it, and it's just and if you want like if you want burgers, if you want chicken, if you want pasta, if you want Greek, if you want Asian, whatever kind of food you like, gourmet donuts there. I mean, just like so yeah, all kinds of crazy stuff. So, but yeah, Origins is like it's what if like all your favorite game publishers decided they go to a convention that feels big like Gen Con, but has about a sixth as many people there. So like you just feel, so it feels, it has everything you want that Gen Con has, but not the zoo that Gen Con is. So so Origins is fabulous. But anyway, regardless, I told you that story so I could tell you that I ended up in the North Market. I went and got some of this spicy hot chicken that they have there, and I ended up sitting down, and Michael just happened to be like at the other table, and then we just started talking about wrestling, and we started arguing over how horrible John Cena was and how he's ruining the WWE, and just so we had a very lively discussion, and then we just talked for a long time. I was like, we should really do a podcast. We should really do a wrestling podcast, and so finally we were just like, to heck with it. Even if only 7 people listen to it, let's do it. And so then we did.
Cool.
Yeah, nothing ventured, nothing gained, right?
Well, and that's just the whole thing is that we don't look at that as a thing to we don't. I don't think there's anything. There's no business end to the wrestling podcast whatsoever, other than it's just an excuse for me to get together with 2 wonderful people and talk about wrestling for an hour. And that's what that serves.
That's worth it by itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Especially as busy as everybody is nowadays, sometimes that's just the easiest way to do something. It's like, hey, let's just. Vince called me on the phone the other day, and we were both like, I don't remember the last time that we actually talked on the phone, because it's like, hey, do you want to do a hangout? Sure. Give me 10 minutes. Let me set up my laptop. Like that's just it's the video wall now from the Jetsons.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, no. but I think society as a whole is moving towards the point where we're barely going to use our phones to actually talk on anymore. It's gonna be our little personal computer that we send a written message to somebody and then use it to keep track of where we're supposed to be that day. Yeah. It's a different world. Like I said, my kids are going to grow up in a world where, nobody has a phone on their wall. Whereas back in the day, like in my parents' house, we had we had 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we had 4. We had 2 lines. We even had that thing that had the children's line, So and I don't remember if you remember this because I'm a child of the '70s, like I said, but in the phone book there was everybody's phone number was listed in there, and so you'd look up and then there'd be the normal phone number, and then they'd sub-reference put children's line, and then they put the phone number on there. what world did we live in where we just basically said, "You want to talk to some kids?
Yeah.
Call this number." You know what I mean? Just like, what creepo world did we live in that we just basically gave a direct line to everybody?
Yeah, I don't remember those, at least not on the East Coast.
Oh yeah, no, I remember that was, and then I remember, and this is horrible, but yeah, I mean, but I remember like as kids, you would sit there and you'd go through the phone book and you'd try to find the people with the creepy names or with the weird names, and then you'd call them up, like make
prank call them in.
prank call because it was before caller ID, right? You could just call somebody up and just say, it's like, is this Mr. Pinkelfiker? You got a funny name, and then hang up, and nothing you can do about it, So, yeah, but yeah, because we're all horrible human beings when you're young. So,
on some level.
Well, at some level, yeah. I mean, it's like, just and then that stuff comes back to haunt you because, of course, now, my daughter is like in grade school and she's in 4th grade, and now she's like, you're just starting to deal with when she's saying that people are jerks at school, and you're like, okay, well, I can't really go to school and beat them up, so it's just like. So you call the teacher, and then also in the back of your head, you're like, well, this is something. Well, also they have to learn to fight for themselves, and I can't be there all the time. Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, until I actually got to be a big kid, I remember, that was the daily chase home, because we were the nerds that liked D&D. We brought our D&D books to school, and thankfully, there was finally the one day when I realized that I was taller than most of them, and I was like, "Wait a minute, why am I running from you?" I just like, and just then they were like, "Wait a minute, he is taller than us," and just like, okay, and hit some kid over the head. I hit some kid over the head with my backpack that had my Dungeon Master's Guide and my Monster Manual and my Player's Handbook, and
Revenge.
flying into a locker, and then that put an end to that. Nobody wanted to his backpack weighs 40 pounds. You don't want to mess.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's try to steer this back over and put the shit back on course.
That's okay.
So the majority, by and large, the reviews that you've done have all been positive. Do you feel, because we do some game reviews. We don't do a ton, but we do some. And most of that stuff's coming from people doing Kickstarters, and we do the interviews, and we try to help with that promotion.
No, I think that's great. I mean that personal like interview stuff and everything like that. I mean I like what you guys do with that. Because I think it is something where like it's an extra element to, especially now that like back in the day, and I'll let you get to your question here, but back in the day, like when somebody would publish a game. It's like you didn't know who the designer was. You didn't know who that dude was. I mean, you'd see the name or something like that. But now with Kickstarter, it's like here you have some guy who's going to self-publish a game, and it's like, oh, well, now you can actually find out, okay, how did this game come about? What were the ideas behind it? It's like, oh, I've been working on this for like 9 years, because me and my best friend in high school had this idea, and so like it's a wonderful like maturation of the idea and how you got to that point, but which I enjoy. I enjoy the history of things a great deal.
And not only that too. I mean, we've had people on to discuss Kickstarters, and we may talk about the Kickstarter for like all of 10 minutes, and then just do this and just kind of bullshit for a while. And I think even that is beneficial because you kind of get a chance to see who the people are behind it. It's not just a name on a box or like, okay, well, yeah, it was me and my friend and, we were in high school. But you just get a sense for like who people are and, what they're into and, games that have influenced them and all that kind of stuff. And I enjoy that. And we've made tons of friends that way. We're friends with people on Facebook and stuff now. So it's been really cool for us to do it. And it's really neat to be a part of that community, even in an ancillary fashion to, try to help promote stuff and, get people's, in some cases, their dreams out there. I mean, like Chaosium's just using Kickstarter as a pre-order, but you get like a Sean Epperson or Scott Hansen. Most people don't know who they are, but they've got histories and stories and all these different things, and they're out there doing their stuff, and it's cool to be able to help and sort of be a part of that.
Yeah, totally. I think, but I'm going to dovetail into what I think your question was going to be. Most of my reviews are positive. Well, the thing is that at this point, my reviews are about Kickstarters. That's what I do. I will every once in a while I'll have the occasional non-Kickstarter review, but for the most part, they're Kickstarters because it's I am contacted by publishers, by Kickstarter companies, by whatever, and they license my services for it, and then I go through a vetting process. I ask to read the rules. If I think the game's got some legs, I'll ask them to send me a copy. I'll put it through the ringer with my group, my playing solo, playing with my daughter. And if it's something that I actually enjoy, then I'll do a video. And if it isn't, then I say no, thank you, and and then we cut ties at that point and we move forward. But the thing is that at that point, I would never like contract out to do a video and then like say, well, don't back this, it's a pile, because it's just because one. I've always said this, just because the only thing I have going for me is the sheer number of games that I've played. That's the only thing that I think maybe differentiates myself from the average person who's going to watch one of my videos. And even then, that might not be the truth. But I firmly believe that my opinion of whether or not the game is good or not is no more valid or invalid than anybody else's. It's just I'm willing to put my face and my name and put it out there for somebody to look at. So for me to say, well, I didn't really like this game, well, there might be 10 people that really loved it. So I don't want to like have 1,000 people or whatever watch my video and say, well, I'm not giving that guy $40 because because that's and I understand I've caught some flack for that. I mean, I definitely hear from a lot of people. It's like, oh, well, you don't do any negative reviews. Well, the thing is I have done a few, and the thing is, and the negative reviews are fun to do. Trust me. There's nothing better than eviscerating something that really needs to have a spear shoved through its stomach. But it's still it's not. I don't know. It isn't. It's just. I've always said I'm going to continue doing this or being part of like the media and board games for as long as it's fun. And I don't find like it's a lot of time to get the game set up and to talk about it and formulate my thoughts and do everything. And to do that for a game that I don't like, it seems like I'm almost doubling down on the hatred at that point, because it's like, not only did I not like playing the game, but I'm going to spend the next 15 hours, really destroying it. And, the thing is that the other night I was like, because that's when I actually get most of my thinking done. I'm lying awake and waiting to fall asleep. I said, I was like, could I possibly like do like a 10-minute or less video of just why a game is bad. Like if I just approached it, if I played a game and I just really, really disliked it, and I even like was trying to go, it's like games like come up with like a chain of games, like games I hated after one play. Just like and like that. So it's like completely and totally opinionated. Probably wrong because I only gave it one shot. And I was like, that almost be fun. Like if I could do it in a way that like basically, you knew that I shouldn't be taken too seriously.
Yeah,
but
kind of tongue in cheek.
Yeah, kind of tongue in cheek. And I was like, so it's like that's in the back of my head right now. I'm like, because I wouldn't really have to set up the game at all. I could just kind of do it. I could show the book. It's like this is what I didn't like about it. Maybe show the board a little bit, but they'd be a quicker, faster game to produce. So. Maybe that I would do that. But see, the thing is that most, there's like reviewer. Tom will still do a negative review here and there. But for the most part, negative reviews don't really exist, honestly. It's like you'll get, instead of out and out negativity, what you'll get from a review is, I didn't really like it, but I can see why somebody would. That seems to be as negative as it gets nowadays. And that's it's. I think it takes one of the problems is that board games and you go to a convention, you're going to see that designer. And trust me, if you took apart a game and gave it the business, they're going to come up and talk to you about it. Not mad. But like the designer of Small World, like I did a Small World review that I just said this is not a good game. I absolutely detested Small World, and and the designer actually like saw me. He came up to me. He's like, "Oh, you're the one who doesn't like my game," And I was just like,
Pretty sure that was me. That wasn't me.
There's lots of guys. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's such a close knit family. It's like you just you don't want to. I don't know. I mean, maybe if I was more of a true critic, I wouldn't really care whether or not I hurt somebody's feelings. But
Right.
One of the nice things about the board game hobby is that we really do, I think, even as it's getting bigger, feel like kind of a family. And we try to play nice, I guess, in all walks, both playing the games and otherwise. We for the most part, in my opinion, everybody just tries to do the right thing.
Well, and not every game is for everybody. Like I got a chance to play Camel Up over the weekend. I run a board game meetup here by my place,
Cool.
And it was okay. It didn't grab me. It wasn't something like oh man, this was great. I'm gonna put it on my list and I'm gonna get it.
Mm-hmm,
And not that there's anything wrong with the game. If I was going to review it for the podcast, I'd be like, hey, I didn't like it, but like you said, it's not my game. And there's other games that I've liked, and I was looking back at a lot of the reviews that I've done, and again, most of them have been positive, really, for the most part. I mean, it hasn't been anything like, wow, this was just terrible, and I don't even know why they sent it, and why is this on Kickstarter? Because it doesn't help anybody.
Yeah.
And like you said, it just might not be something that tickles your fancy. And like you, I think at that point, I'd just be like, hey, I'm not comfortable doing this because, either I can't figure it out or it doesn't catch me. It's not something that I would want to be involved with, and I don't want to slam it. It's just not helpful.
Well, and I think what a lot of it is like, and I mean, and maybe both of you guys can answer this. How many times have you guys played a game and like you got done playing it and you're like, well, I never have to play that again. It's just like, and it's not so much that you didn't like it. It's just like, all right, it's done. I mean, that game showed me everything that it's going to show me, and now I've played it.
Yeah. I'm still relatively new to the board gaming aspect. Like I grew up, playing Parcheesi and, Aggravation and all those sorts of things. So, I mean, I've gotten more into board games, because of the podcast, and my collection is quickly growing. And I'll catch stuff across Twitter, or, if I see one of reviews or somebody else's reviews, or I'll catch something and I'll write it down and I'll go back and look it up later. And some things I've gone back to investigate more, and I'm like, I don't think that one is probably going to be for me. And, you're looking at spending, somewhere between $30 and $100 for a game. It's like, yeah, I'll see if I know somebody that has it and try to play it. But like maybe Camel Up. I mean, if someone brought it again, I might play it. If somebody wanted to play something else, I would be at the other table, because it wouldn't be something that, to be like, oh yeah, I got to make sure I get in on that again. But we played Bang, which was a lot of fun, and I would totally do that again.
One of my friends, dear friends, Jason, he has never survived the first round of Bang ever. It's just, he's unfortunately just in this situation where, like, he just, like, unless he gets to act first, they just everybody just, at this point now, it's like we just do it on purpose. We just try to kill him as soon as possible. Just like, and I bang and I bang and I bang. Oh, you're dead. It's just like he just yeah. It's but yeah. I mean, it's yeah. Board games are you can find games that are very polarizing. I mean, like, and some of the games that I think are absolute train wrecks, I mean, people just love. I mean, I played Pandemic once, and I wanted to take that one time I played it and forget that it ever happened. But man, just people just can't get enough Pandemic. I don't understand it at all.
Do you have a favorite game?
No, I have a game at that moment that I really like. I mean, there's games that, like, I've used this terminology like 5 times today at least, but I mean, like, like evergreen. I don't really like that terminology because I just hate that thing. But it's like, there are games in my collection that, like, unless I played it very recently, like if somebody say, "Hey, let's play that," I'll be like, "Okay, let's play that." I mean, and those games are all over the place. I mean, like Battlestar Galactica, Arkham Horror, Eldritch Horror, Kingsburg, Pillars of the Earth, Dominant Species, Urban Sprawl, Thunder Road. I mean, it's just like if you put a gun to my head, I could maybe come up with a top 20. But I mean, it's just like if you'd asked me a year ago, I would have said Blood Rage was like the best game of all time. But I mean, now after like 50 games of Blood Rage, I'm just like, well, I'm kind of done. I mean, it's just like because, well, no, I mean, it's just because you've done everything. I mean, it's just like I mean, like, like Russian Railroads. When Russian Railroads came out, I was like, and I played it for the first time ever. I was like, this is really, really good. I was just like, wow. I mean, like, as far as like a worker placement game, I was really, really intrigued by that. And then like the second time I played it, I was like, that was still really good. I was like, this has got some legs. And like by play number 4, I was just, and I'm done. I was just like, I mean, there really wasn't a strategy left anymore. Now, when the German Railroads expansion came out and now the American Railways thing came out as well, I mean, that's given it a little bit more life. But I mean, it was just kind of like, games have a finite amount of, stuff to them, for lack of a better terminology. I mean, it's just like, for me, I like exploring a game. I like exploring what the game allows me to do, the different options I have. But that moment where you kind of learn it, and now all of a sudden, now you're just playing it to kind of, try to like establish your strategy and trying to like get that victory point engine running even a little bit more smoother than it did the last time you play it, and all of a sudden now you got 4 people at the table all working as hard as they can just to squeeze a few more points out to see what they can do. I mean, there's some people that really, I'm talking about that disparagingly, but there's some people I know that just love that. They love doing that. They love like refining their strategy and like, let's play Race for the Galaxy for the like 250th time, and it's just, and they love it. And they, God bless them, they, go for it. But for me, I'm just like, ugh, like I don't want to like massage myself through another 7 rounds of this. There's nothing left. I want to go on and move to something new. I mean, if somebody like Race to the Galaxy is still something that like if somebody said, hey, let's play that, and it's like, okay, well, I'll play it. That'll be my one time this year that I'll want to play it, and I'll have fun with it, and then I'll put it back, and then and then I'll like try to remember all the different iconography for the next time I take it down. But I mean, and I think that's like one of the things that does kind of stink is that there's so many games like that now where it's really tough to pare it down. I mean, my personal collection is ridiculously huge, but there's games in that collection that I haven't played in 2 years. And like, okay, yes, the mentality is like, if you haven't played in a year, you should get rid of it. Give it to somebody else, sell it, trade it, do something with it. But I know, only because it's happened. It's like, I know there are games in my collection that, yes, maybe I haven't played in a couple of years, but there will be a moment where I'll be like, oh, I really want to play that. Oh, that's right. I sold it for, $20 and a copy of Bang the Dice Game. Why did I do that? I really just like, and then you're annoyed with yourself. So, yeah, I mean, that's one thing, man. I mean, it's just like this hobby it's, it makes collectors out of everybody, and you at a certain point you have to designate, like you have to have like an entire room that's all it is. Mm-hmm. It's just, I mean, I love my game room, but I walk in there and I'm like, this is ridiculous. It's like,
just your wife says every time she walks by.
Oh, she has to walk by. I have to go to the laundry room, and she even says, make sure you just close the door when you come out of there, so I don't have to look at it. Just shakes her head.
How many games do you think you have?
See, that's just it. I have all these grand ideas where if I just had like a day, where I didn't have to do anything but like categorize, like separate my games into stuff I wanted to get rid of, stuff I wanted to trade, stuff I wanted to keep. Like if I just had 24 hours where I didn't have to do anything else, I'd be able to do it. I stopped updating my BGG page, my account there, and so that is not accurate at all. And I think I have like 400 games listed there. I'm guessing it's like around 1,500. I'm just looking. Yeah, I'm looking over, and it's absolutely ridiculous. I can see a box of games of things I purchased at Gen Con that are still in the box that I shipped them home, and I haven't opened it up yet. Just because it's just one of those things where it's like, that's horrible. It's just like I went there, I was like, yeah, that sounds like a good game, and I bought 4 games.
That could be a video all by itself for you.
And have a bunch of people angry at me for not having played it here yet, right?
Look what I haven't played yet.
Yeah, exactly. So it's ridiculous. It is a hobby but it's a hobby that people are passionate about, and man, you get, and not to be all like weird and soliloquy here, but you get one trip, and you should grab as much fun as you possibly can on your way through, So yeah, I don't really have any. I don't regret any of the games I played. I don't regret my hobby at all. It is ridiculous. I'll fully admit, but But yeah, it's I think that's like the one thing is like you have to be passionate about something, right? And just, or else I guess. Yeah, something's got to be in your life that, it doesn't have to be board games. It can be anything, it's you got to have something that, is, your thing. And board games, is my thing. And luckily enough, I have a family that, puts up with it. And I have a 9-year-old girl that loves it as much as I do. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So, that's pretty cool.
And stands to inherit 1,500 plus.
I've often said, it's like I've got before I got into board games, most of my usable income, my fun income, was going into like graphic novels. So there's like a giant library of graphic novels, and now a giant library. So I was like, so some grandchildren of mine somewhere down the road, or great grandchildren, they're going to have a treasure trove of stuff, just like that they're going to be ridiculously happy, or they're going to throw in the garbage or sell for $100 total, and somebody I don't even know will be even more happy. So holy shit, they sold all this stuff for $100. Those idiots.
Outstanding.
All right. You'd mentioned earlier that you're working over at Tasty Minstrel now. I'm assuming since you gave up the suit and tie, you're doing a full-time gig over there. How did that come to pass? Did they reach out to you? Did you see that? Had they posted that they were looking for someone, and you were like, "Hey, I'm looking to not do what I'm doing"?
That was that was serendipity. That was it was a situation, and I'll try to tell a shorter story here. Basically, first year I went to Gen Con, Joel, Eddie, and I, drive-through review, we're sharing a room. And I was tired, and he was tired, and I said, hey, let's head back to the room and get up. It was like, I think it was a Friday night, so we get up for Saturday for Gen Con. And he's like, I'm supposed to meet the Tasty Minstrel guys over in this one room or whatever. We're supposed to hang out and play some games. I was like, all right, I'll go with. And I had conversations with them, but I hadn't really, didn't really know him, And so I went over there, and Joel immediately abandoned me and ran off with Seth Jaffe to go play Hanabi. And so then I ended up, and then Michael Mendez was there, the founder, the CEO of the company. He had like some prototypes that people had handed off to him at the convention that wanted him to look at it. And so he's like, would you mind playing some of these with me? I was like, that's fine, we can play. And so we sat down and we started playing these, and I don't remember any of them. They weren't really that good. But we just started trading life stories, and he was a father, I was a father. We started talking about life and board games, and we just started laughing, and we just started telling stories about our lives, and we were joking around and having a good time. And then, all of a sudden it was like I was super tired, but all of a sudden it was like 3:30 in the morning, and it was like we were still just talking and having a blast, and so I ended up in this weird situation where I was like, all of a sudden I was like, Michael and I would talk, like once every month or so. And anytime we ran into it at a convention, we always made sure we went and grabbed lunch together. And like he always would say, he's like, "Hey, let's go grab lunch this day." And he always made time for me, and you always talked about the board game industry. He turned to me for advice, or whatever. And so it was just like at Gen Con maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Like I was helping him set up his booth because he got me a badge, to an exhibitor badge for the convention. He's like, I was like, I felt I should do something. He's like, no, I just want to get you the badge. I was like, no, help set the booth. And we were talking, and I just said, when are you going to give me a job? And he just, then he just flat out said, "Do you really want a job?" And I was like, well, maybe. And so then that one comment and built off of that one conversation that I decided not to go back to my room and I hang out. It was one of those things where he and I just slowly talked about it and talked about what he would expect from me as an employee and what I would do. And then like he always said, well, this is a if and when, and then it became a win. And then it became a point where he called me up and said, "I can offer you this for a salary." And I said, "Well, I can't work for anything less than this." And so then he said, and after a little bit of negotiation, he said, "Okay, sounds good. You're hired." And that was it. I mean, that was that. And I'm in a weird situation where, it's just like I'm one of like 8 employees of a company instead of one of like 5,000.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I get to, like, I mean, yes, it's scary. It was very, very scary to leave like the comfort of my job that I had. Good benefits, very structured, come to work, sit in desk,
yeah,
do this. If you accomplish that during the day, I get to work in a world where I'm very passionate about it, and I get to connect with gamers all around the world, and it's a lot of fun, and I do feel like my opinions and my suggestions, whatever, like are valued, and I get to take part in the decisions that the company is making, and I'm very proud of the fact that I went to Japan with Michael and we found the game Yokohama over there, and we came back and we were like, we need to publish this, and like we signed the contract with Hasashi Hayashi. We started up the Kickstarter like less than 6 weeks later, and it was the most successful Kickstarter that TMG ever did. And I was like, and that was my first really big thing that I did with them, was like promoting that and getting the word out and getting a copy of that game into as many people's hands as possible, and going to conventions and demoing it and showing it off, and so then I mean, I don't remember, it was like $500,000 or $600,000 that we made off of it, and so it's like one of those things where it's like no matter whatever happens, I can point to that, and so it's just it's just so cool, to work in and be able to do, being gainfully employed in something that you just love, and instead of just, and I have nothing against my old job, nothing. They paid me well, they took care of me. They put a roof over my kids' heads, and my and there was, me leaving the company was not me not liking them. It was just one of those things where it was like I didn't want to. Well, no, yeah, and I also, as I told my wife, I said I really don't want to be 75 years old and say I really should have taken that job.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like I just. Come what may, I want to be able to say that. I want to be able to say that. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think part of it too is moving towards a direction where you're designing your life and you're choosing options that are going to create great memories for yourself. And I think if you'd stayed in the desk job, it wouldn't be as great of memories as you're creating now with a company of only 8 people.
Yeah. No, and I mean it's scary. I mean, thankfully my wife. I mean, I met my wife at my old job, so I mean, thankfully she's still there, so I still have insurance and stuff like that. So I mean, there's things like that that are good. But like my wife even said too. She's like, she said, you're not you're not built for the corporate world. It's surprising that you lasted there as long as you did. So, no,
Ringing endorsement.
well, no. One of the weird things was is I remember the like my boss's boss, like the top guy in our area. Um, he had a really weird kinship with me. I mean, like it was one of those things where it's like he took a special interest in me. He always would come up to me and he'd ask me for advice. He's like, about all sorts of things, and he'd always come over and like it was weird. It was like I was like I mean I'd been there for a long time, and most people at the place knew who I was and what have you, but they always would think it was weird that like this guy that would like come down from the mountain basically to come over and like sit at my desk and just talk to me about whatever, and we just and it wasn't even half the time, it wasn't even really about work, it was just about life. And I remember like the moment I knew I was going to quit, I walked into his desk, I walked over into his office and I just said, hey, just letting you know, I'm moving on, and I told him what I was going to do, and he said, he's like, I am so sad that you're not going to be anymore, but I can't begin to tell you how happy I am that you're not here anymore. He's like, and he said, it's had nothing to do with you as an employee. It's just, he's like, your creativity and passion is just wasted here. So he's like, good for you, and he's like, there's always a place here for you if you ever want to come back. So, but I don't want you ever to come back. So I was like, and I was like, that was really nice. It was like, so I mean, like I said, it had nothing to do with my job, me not wanting to be there. It had everything to do with this being such a better option, and just as far as like, me, like happiness in my life, in general. So, and I'm really blessed. I'm exceedingly lucky. I tell myself every single day that I get annoyed of having to answer yet another email, dealing with a board game or something like that, where I was like, I've told you this 17 times. Like, I mean, I tell myself this could be so much worse. It could be so much worse. Just type it out with a smile and hit send and move on. So, but that's what it is, man. Like I said, I am ridiculously blessed to be in the situation I'm in. So
Cool.
All right. So I got one more here, and then we'll roll into our final 5 questions, which is 5 geeky, nerdy, kind of either or sort of questions. This was a little more esoteric. So before we get into that, what do you think is contributing to the resurgence in board gaming? And in general, I guess.
Well, everybody, I'm gonna go against culture here a little bit. I mean, everybody like wants to say that it's because of, it's like we live in such a digital world. People are like finally unplugging, and they're interacting with people. And I say bullshit, because you go to BGG Con, and the vast majority of everybody, when it isn't their turn, they got their phone out and they're looking at their phone, and it's just like, and 2 years ago, if you had your phone out at the table, people would just glare at you. Now people just accept it, because they want to be on their phone. They want to like check and see what's on Facebook. They got to take a picture of the game and make sure they post it. I'm playing Kingsbury at BGGCon 2016, because they, by God, if somebody doesn't know what I'm doing every 5 minutes of the day, they're going to, and I'm just as much to blame as anybody for it, it's just like, so I'm not going to, but I mean, we're this like weird culture where all of a sudden, like everybody's day-to-day life is so important, and it isn't even so much, I think, that like, that we have to tell anybody. It's like, it's a combination of like wanting to record it for ourselves. Gone are the days where, you'd fish out your leather-bound journal and today that's just done, but now it's like, we're going to take a little snapshot of our life and we're going to put it on there. And Facebook's even nice enough to let us know a year later, do you remember doing this? No, yeah. But I do now, So, it's the reason why board gaming is getting big now is because people that aren't passionate about the hobby recognize that there's money to be made. And that's the long and short of it. It's people seeing Exploding Kittens make $8 billion on Kickstarter. It's even games like Scythe making $1.7 million in Kickstarter. It's outside people that aren't like it's people that are going to Walgreens and seeing like indie board and card games on the shelf there. They're seeing Coup on the shelf. They're seeing Resistance on the shelf. They're like, what is this? And then like they do a little research and they're like, holy crap, these games are getting like 60, 70, 80, 90, $100,000 in Kickstarter. I could come up with a board game and and that's what it is. People that have money are investing it, and they're working with that company, and that's what it is. And that's neither bad nor good. Money is completely neutral. It's the people behind it. So I'm not going to sit here and say it's a bad thing, but that's why it's getting bigger. It's because people are realizing that you can be successful and fatten up your bank account. By making tabletop games, and that's the long and short of it. I mean, 9 times out of 10, why is this happening? Follow the money, the money, because money is the driving force. And I'm not saying that there isn't some, happy-go-lucky, smiley face things going on where it's like, it's like we need to unplug and whatever. I won't deny that there might be some of that, but no, there isn't enough of that to warrant the explosion that we're seeing in the hobby right now. And I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. Remember though, it's still so small when you compare it to video games, you compare it to books, you compare it to movies, you compare it to Netflix, all those things. Board games are tiny things. So, but yeah, it's getting bigger, it'll be really, really fun to see where it goes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it does have the added benefit. You follow that money in, and it's good for us who are, for us as ancillary, involved in it, and you are involved in it, and just getting into the hobby, and you may have to weed through some things that are maybe not as great, but some, anything that brings more attention to the hobby and brings more people into it, not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's the second time you use the word ancillary correctly. So I'm very that's awesome.
I have to throw it in there,
All right, give me these 5 questions. I'm excited.
All right, so the first one is Star Trek or Star Wars.
Oh, I have to pick one.
Well,
you don't have to. I mean, you can say both.
It's not completely binary, but you can.
Well, no, okay. To sub-reference. Do you guys remember the old game called Scruples?
Yes.
It was a party game.
I don't think I ever played it, but yeah.
So like the whole thing was, it was like you would ask a question of somebody, and then everybody would guess what your answer would be. Like, if you had a roommate that wanted to do naked yoga, would you let them? Like that kind of thing. Like, and so yes, and you had yes, no, or maybe were the thing. And I always hated the fact that there was the maybe, because every answer is a maybe. It's just like, would you ever own a gun? Yes, no, or maybe. Oh, well, maybe if there was a zombie apocalypse. So it's just like, I always hated the maybe. So when you ask these questions, yes, I mean, I have to pick one, so I should have to pick one. I shouldn't be able to say, well, I think both, because that's weak. Man. I'm going to go with Star Wars, mostly because I can remember my dad. My parents got divorced when I was really young, and I remember my dad when he had me one weekend in 1977, and I would have been in first grade, and I went and he picked me up for like his Wednesday that he had me, and I remember he said, "We're going to go to a movie." And I asked him what the movie was. And he said, it's a new one. It's called Star Wars. And we went to a movie theater that no longer exists. It's been torn down. And I remember sitting there, and I remember at 6 thinking this was like the absolute most cool thing I'd ever seen in my entire life. And I mean, later on in my life, I kind of learned to love Star Trek and like the old school Star Trek and things like that. But I mean, Star Wars, just for the sheer ability for it to transport me like to some fantastic level of imagination and this is actually an easier question now that I think about it. I never ran around the playground, or I never ran around my backyard with my buddies pretending to be Captain Kirk, but you know damn well I ran around pretending I was Luke Skywalker, like all the time when I was a kid. So yeah, I mean, I might not have liked some of the more recent stuff that they've done with it, but man, those that 4, 5, and 6 back when they were just 1, 2, and 3, um, that was amazing, and I remember, yeah, it was yeah. So yeah, definitely Star Wars.
And it's I read today. I didn't read the article. I kind of glanced through it because I don't want any spoilers. But they said that Rogue One is aimed at you and me and Vince and our age bracket. It's meant for adult fans who grew up with 4, 5, and 6, and it has kid friendly things, and it's Disney and whatever. But it's meant more for a mature audience, I guess, or that reminiscence of I saw it when I was 5, you saw it when you were 6. I mean, yeah, I'm looking forward to going. I think I'm going to go Friday morning with my dad.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I might go to that one with my dad too. But interesting factoid about Star Wars, and this is one of the things that I think is just amazing. When the first Star Wars came out, when it was just Star Wars, we didn't know it was called A New Hope or anything like that. But when Star Wars came out, the country of France was still chopping the heads off people with guillotines. They still had the death penalty, and they were still using a guillotine to kill them. So yeah, just think about that. I mean, that's how far back Star Wars was. I mean, I think they abolished the death penalty in 1979 or something like that. But yeah. So just frame of reference.
Right. Interesting factoid.
Yeah.
All right. Board games or RPGs?
RPGs, no, not a question. RPGs, and I wrote. Who knows? It's been lost to the internets for the muse. But I wrote a long article about this. I said, I mean, basically, what it comes down to is that when in an RPG, basically what you have is you you can buy a store-bought adventure or whatever, but the basic premise is that there's somebody that you're suggesting will control the action, control the world, control everything, and has ultimate knowledge. But they go into it saying, this is the story I want to tell. You need to rescue the king who is trapped in this dungeon or whatever, So they have this story they're going to tell, and they know exactly, episode, act 1, act 2, act 3. They know everything that's going to happen. And he inherently, or she inherently, wants you to succeed. They want to tell that story. They want to have that full, complete story. Yet, and the players know this, even on some subconscious level, they know that this is what's supposed to happen. But everybody buys into the idea that you might not do it. That the story that's going to happen over the course of several sessions or even one session is it's going to it's like we've had this suspension of belief that there's a possibility we'll fail, and maybe you will with bad dice rolls, but ultimately you're there to tell a story as a collective group, and everybody buys into that, and everybody lives and breathes it. And I mean, I have moments from D&D from 36, 37 years ago that I still remember vividly, and I don't remember anything. I mean, there's occasional board game moments that you have, but I mean, as long as it's a thematic game, nobody ever remembers some dry Euro, oh, I remember I won by 3 points because I converted my last sand cube into glass. Nobody ever remembers that. But I mean, with RPGs, man, those stories, those moments, when somebody absolutely positively had to have a 20, and they got it, you have those moments that are. So yeah, RPGs, definitely.
Cool. All right, DC or Marvel?
Man, because I mean, I have to go childhood because it would be Marvel, just because I grew up. I mean, obviously DC kind of claimed me later, but I'm a huge Batman fan. I always have been, but I mean, I was a Spider-Man fan first, and Spider-Man still is just the best. I mean, he's Batman's cool, and I mean, he wouldn't be tattooed on my leg if he wasn't cool, but And Batman's got the best villains, man. And I'm not even talking about the Joker. I
Mhm.
mean, Batman's got the Scarecrow. He's awesome. Mr. Freeze, great. Just he's got the best villains. But Spider-Man, I mean, it's just like Peter Parker he's just the best. I mean, and he just is. Everything about Spider-Man and everything. I mean, he always had the best storylines, and he's got some pretty badass villains too. I mean, the Vulture, Doc Ock, Venom, obviously. Just like he was just so quintessential. I mean, just like a guy that just never. He was just a sad sack. He never won. I mean, he win, but he never win. He was just like. I can remember a signature moment, like, and this is how much I read comics all the time. This signature moment when, like, he was dealing with Carnage, like I remember Venom's little offspring or whatever, and so he teamed up with Venom to try to capture Carnage, and Venom made him promise that no matter what, that he would let Venom go. Like he said, "I don't trust you, Peter Parker. You're gonna screw me over." And he's just like, and he's like, well, you got to promise to let me go. And I said, well, if I let you go, you're going to try to kill me. He's like, well, yes, but I'm not going to try to kill you until after this. And he's just like, all right, fine. I promise I'll let you go. Well, then he double crosses Venom and he captures both Carnage and Venom at the same time in like the sound cages or whatever. And Venom is like screaming at him. It's like, you promised us, Peter Parker. You promised us. You betrayed us. And for whatever reason, for God knows whatever reason, J. Jonah Jameson was there, and he hears Venom say this, and he's like, "You gave me your word, and you betrayed him." It's like, he's like, it's like, what did he say? He said he was like something along the lines of, it's like, it's like you're not a hero. He's just like, it's like Captain America never would have given his word, and then Spider-Man just said, and I always love this line. He said, he's like, you're right. He said, Captain America wouldn't have betrayed his word. Captain America probably wouldn't have given his word. Captain America would have figured out a way to do it without Venom himself. You know why? Because Captain America is a legend. I'm just a man. And he leaves and he walks away. And I mean, I always thought that, like, yeah, Spider-Man was just like, he was just the hapless, like the Ziggy of the Spider-Man. Yeah. Just can't win no matter what.
This is Charlie Brown.
Yeah, there you go.
In a Spider-Man suit. Yeah, well, Peter Parker is always the everyman. I mean, he's just the kid got bit by the spider. So,
yep,
making his way.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, sci-fi or fantasy?
Oh.
Are these the worst or what?
Well, it's tough to decide. I mean, because I mean this I'd have to like go with like what has given me see, like I was like fantasy like novels and stuff like that. I mean, like I got into those obviously, but I mean as much as I read them, I never really thought The Hobbit was a really good book. I never really thought that the Lord of the Rings books were all that good either. I mean,
all right, back up.
Yeah, no, I mean they were okay, but I mean I cut my teeth on like Dragonlance and stuff like that. But now if you go back and like you ask me like sci-fi, I mean like you so I'm gonna end up on sci-fi here. But I mean like the pulp science fiction novels, like the stuff like Forever War by Joel Haldeman, or like Starship Troopers, like not that horrible movie, but the actual like book, the Starship Troopers by Heinlein. I mean, A Stranger in a Strange Land by Heinlein. I mean, Heinlein's just a great writer. I mean, he's very pulpy, but I mean, he was a really, really good writer. So, and I always ended up. I mean, like I always thought spaceships were cool, man. So I mean, and the whole idea of traveling to other worlds and everything was pretty awesome. It's too bad they never really made a really, really good sci-fi RPG. I think the problem is that with sci-fi RPGs is that you reach this point where if your technology is so good that it's better than anything your player can do, then you kind of like there's no reason to really your adventurer could be anybody. I mean, just like. Yeah. Because okay, give me the ray gun, I'll shoot it. It's just like you don't really, but with fantasy RPG, it's like as you get better, it's like okay, you can because the technology stays really low tech. It's like I have a sword, but now I can swing it better, or I can cast bigger and better magic spells. So, but I mean, as far as like sci-fi, I would stay up all night long reading science fiction pulp pulp novels, all the time, and I never really got into. I mean, I read a little Dragonlance, but and I mean, obviously, I mean, like, and there's some other stuff now. It's more serious. I mean, I guess Game of Thrones technically kind of is fantasy, but not really.
Yeah.
But yeah, and yeah, sci-fi.
And the last question is, if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Oh, well, I mean, this is that thing where it's like, you say you stop time so you can sleep in or whatever. But so you see, you can't go too crazy. Like you can't say mind control because then you're just evil. Because there's no way anybody can have the ability to control minds and not, like, because we're all fundamentally weirdly evil. I mean, there's like this, like, there'd be the one moment where it would be just like, this would be so much easier if you would just shut up, and then you'd like make them shut up, and you'd do it, and you'd be like, well, now that since I've done that, you can incrementally get a little bit worse each time, and then all of a sudden you're like, you're the Purple Man in the Marvel world, where you're just basically making everybody just do everything you want just because you're psychotic, and you let it go to your head. So let's take a step back, and we can go to like some classics, like flying or invisibility. Actually, the ability to read minds but not controlling them, just being able to read minds. So when you're actually talking to somebody and they're like saying, it's like, oh yeah, totally, we'll get that done, and then in the back of their head, like, you prick, you're just like, yeah, he's not going to do that, So, read minds would be good, but then again, God, that'd be really depressing, because like you'd find out that all these people had all these like horrible, all these people that are like what you think would be really awesome would just they would reveal themselves to being these horrible human beings. Oh man, I mean, it's just like, so I don't know, man. Let's go with Wow, this is tough.
This is turned into work.
Yeah, it is. It's because I mean, well, like flying would be fun, but I mean, it just get cold. I mean, it's just like, I mean, it's like you get too high, you just be cold, right? And it's just like,
you'd have to have some kind of suit at that point, and
exactly. And like super speed would be cool, I guess, but I mean, just like,
how about something like telekinesis or?
Well, telekinesis would be. I mean, ultimately, like I think everybody would just pervert their superpower into something that would make them money, though, at some point. I mean, I mean, I'm more like function like teleportation, like being able to get where I want to go without having to like
instantaneously. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's like, I got to be there in 2 minutes. Okay, I can be there in 2 minutes. Boom. Okay, thank you. Plus you can teleport into the bank vault, and then you can leave. Yeah. And then, the cops are here. I'm out. Just like, so But then again, that's just. I think it is really, really good that superpowers don't exist, because human beings, unfortunately, as they say, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So it's a good thing we don't have them. And I'll let you go here. I'm sure you guys got stuff to do, but there's a fantastic. There was a really bad movie called Wanted, but there was a fantastic graphic novel by Mark Millar.
Yeah,
called Wanted.
That was really good.
It was very good, but the precursor to that, the idea behind it, I don't know if you ever read that. The idea behind it was that when he was young, he got into his brother's superhero comics. He was reading them, and then his older brother told him, he's like, the superheroes were real, and he was like, really? And he was like 5 or 6, so he believed it. And he's like, yep, but right before you were born, they all got into a spaceship and they left. And so we'll never see superheroes again. They all left, and he was just devastated that he would never see people fly around or everything like that. And so he remembered that, and then he was like, "What if we lived in a world where, superheroes were real, but we were all fooled into believing that they weren't?" And so yeah,
that was a good graphic novel.
That is a great graphic novel. It is. That iconic moment where he opens up the vault and the last remnant of Superman's cape is in there, and then he's like, "Is that what I think it is?"
Yep.
Yep. He's like, "It is." Just like, yeah. I mean, yeah. That was a really, really great idea and a great read as well. So, but there you go.
Cool. All right, you want to give out all your details here at the end? Of course, we have all the stuff in the show notes, but if you want to throw all that stuff out there.
No problem. If you want to reach me, you can definitely. If you just type in, if you Google Undead Viking, you'll probably find me. I am not part of the Undead Viking Mafia. There is a garage metal band that I am not part of. So I apologize if you are a fan of them. That is not me. But you can reach me on the old Twitter at Undead Viking. You can find me at Undead Viking Videos on YouTube. You can email me at undeadvikingvideos@gmail.com. If you have anything you want to ask me about as far as with Taste Minstrel Games goes, your best bet is to contact me at lance@playtmg.com. So, yeah, and reach out, say hi, do whatever you got to do, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can.
Cool. All right. I thank you for coming on, sir. It was a pleasure having you on. I know we kind of been going back and forth, trying to figure things out, get dates scheduled and everything, so I'm glad we were able to work it out.
No, this is a lot of fun. We should do it again sometime in the future. What conventions are you going to go to in 2017? You got any ideas?
We'll be going to Necronomicon, which unfortunately is the same weekend as Gen Con next year.
That's
How do they schedule that? I mean, do they not know what happens?
Well, it was the closest weekend to Lovecraft's birthday, so they always try to schedule as close as they can, and unfortunately, it's the same weekend. I don't know why they didn't go a week ahead or a week behind, but
I think they should do it in September, October, in the fall. It's just my humble opinion.
It would be prettier up in Providence at that time of the year.
Well, what do you know?
A lot more.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, hopefully we can meet up at a convention and sit down and play a game.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Sounds fantastic. I would love to be able to do that.
All right.
Cool.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on.
Pleasure meeting you, sir.
All right.
Pleasure meeting you.
All right. I'm going to give out all of our stuff here, as I always do. You can find this excellent interview and all of our other cool content at legendsoftabletop.com. If you have any questions. What?
I said it is pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
It is.
I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's, whatever. If you're into that kind of thing. Yeah, it's. Yeah. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, you can reach out to us at legendsoftabletop@gmail.com. We're on Twitter at legendstabletop, we're on Instagram and Tumblr and iTunes and SoundCloud and all the good stuff. So, like Lance said, go ahead and just throw us into your Google machine, and Legends Tabletop come up all over the place. And we appreciate everybody who follows and downloads and interacts and sends messages and all that stuff. We really appreciate it. So thanks, everybody, for checking this out, and we'll catch you next time.
It touches our heart. Thank you.